Let me say I want to welcome every participant for this conference. Is actually the very first of its kind, the Open Summit from the AfLIA platform. My name is Dr. Diyaolu Akorede Muftau. I'm calling from Ede Federal Polytechnic, Southwest Nigeria. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Good afternoon, Africans. It's good, it's nice to speak about the current issues, which is open access, most especially from the perspectives of who owns the knowledge. There has been so much presentations and ideologies about open access and the ownership stuff. But it is now time to really think from the perspectives of these platforms, digital infrastructures, then structural inequities. Because no matter what we have, no matter what we produce, no matter what we own, then certainly there must be a way to propagate our views. There must be a way to keep these our views. There must be a way to manage these resources, most especially from the point of ownership. Then are we making enough gains from all this knowledge we are contributing? Let me start by way of introduction. Knowledge production and ownership means digital are always, mediated by digital infrastructures. Let's say, for instance, digital infrastructures is, a conglomerate of resources. That is, we have these platforms, we have this software, the API, and the sessions whereby we keep our resources. This also includes the storage systems and the server farms and all that, and the transmission equipment. Then the question is, to what end, to what extent are these equipment or platforms being used as a medium to propagate ownership stuff, which must definitely include the community of the producer, which are mainly the authors. I want to look at how digital infrastructure mediates the ownership stuff, to explore the structural inequities, and just to evaluate the open access as a democratizing force, as it's been said by most of our presenters. From the conceptual overview, knowledge ownership involves legal, technology, ethical dimensions, which is shaped by who controls the access, who uses it, and who make gains from it. So we have so many forms of, these ownership stuff. We have the individual ownership, we have the institutional, we have the legal, we have joint ownership. And in most cases, all these are being moderated by the law, which guide the intellectual properties. Digital infrastructure. These are technological, organizational, and systems that enable storage, sharing, discovery, and reuse of data. And among the examples of these facilities are where we publish, the giant publishers, Elsevier, Amazons of the world, which all belong to Global North. And then we have the database owner too, as well as the digital infrastructure owner, the social networking site, and all that. They all belong to the Global North. And in the case of this research, we refer to the Global North as the developed world, while we refer Africans, some part of Asians, and the Latin Americans as the Global South. Then when talk about structural inequities, knowledge ownership is not evenly distributed across the globe. Instead, this structural inequity seems to shape the ownership of the knowledge. We can talk about it from the point of geography, from the point of linguistic and languages, so also from the point of economic. All these determine who produce and who benefit from knowledge. And these are not working well in the favor of we southern globe. This inequity manifests in the patterns of knowledge production and the condition of access. This inequity will always determine who access and to whom credit is given. The power access is always dominated by these companies, the big tech dominants, the owner of the platform, the owner of the resources, the owner of the server farms, the owner of the site which we use to publish most of our work. Then there's also funding disparities. The institution in the global south, we are having low of this funding. Why the global north, or were able to get funding as I went due. Then another issue is the data colonialism. The global north researchers are being given fair listenership. Structural inequalities, we see it from geography. The north enjoys better coverage, whereas there are epistemic injustice done to the global south. What we present or originate from here at times is being presented in another perspectives from the northern researchers. Geographic inequalities, if you look at the number of research being recorded from the global north, we see that Africa is not being given fair share. Whereas it's not that we are not doing research here, but when you seek to publish your work there, is either the work is not taken or rejected through some other metrics and the indicators in terms of the mission and visions of the journal that belongs to the global north. Linguistic is that any medium or any platform from the north is always English-based, and in most cases, the linguistic, in most cases, the African from the south are not given fair share. Francophone countries, for instance, so also the Lusophone Africans, the journals or the impact being made there were not so recognized in terms of things, most especially from the high-end or high-impact global journals. Then we now think of the open access as a substitute. Then open access, it was developed to serve as a tool to dismantle barriers. That is, the barriers that disturbs equitable and democratization of knowledge. And in what way and in what medium can this open access work? We've seen that the very first option of the open access, the good option, may not really suit or fit well the context of the global south and we Africans, because the cost charged through the APC, that is article processing charges, is always high. In most cases, we have up to between $1,500 and $5,000 per publication. And this effect is giving a kind of unfairness, especially to the authors, because the authors, the local authors, the community, they are the real owner of the work. But in this case, the open access through the APC charges of the first option, that is the good option, will try to do this imbalance in terms of what the author pays in terms of subscription or as a means of subscription is what the readers gain as a free reader. In this case now, the diamond options, which are community-based, or the green option, which are through the repository submissions, are the forms that suit the cases of the global south. Evidence also show that open access generally enhance citation or thematic view of the work or of the knowledge, as well as the ability to reuse and the fair use of the sources. We can go on and on and on to explain the benefit of this open access. In Africa, the policy, especially on open access, is not well grounded. We have seen cases from South Africa especially if you look at the last presenter, we see the effort and the presence of the South African through the AOSP and the APOS. They are much more, that part of the Africa is much more having prevalence on that platform. That the few ones which the other Africans join are not too encouraging, but we could still do more to subscribe more to this event. So also we have a popular AJOL. AJOL is also a very good case example of community-based open access. AJOL is hosting over 500 or 5,000 journals, for instance, which are of global South origin. So Nigeria will continue to improve on this access of the community-based open access. There are pathways to equity. Yes, there are no other ways than to take part in the event. For instance, Africa should try to invest in community repositories. This will really help us in great deal, as suggested by the UNESCO Open Science Framework for Equitable Knowledge Sharing, which is explored by this paper. We can also promote multilingual publishing. We've never been able to hear that since. That is also a very good platform to launch the Global South publication scheme for it to be really acceptable to all the Africans and every other part of the globe. Then we could strengthen funding frameworks. How we do that could be done by us. We could actually contribute, make a joint effort to make a joint funding of this project for us to use it. By this, we'll be able to decolonize the research metrics, all those indicators that favor the global north. Then will soon be a thing of the past by the time all these recommendations are taken into consideration. So also digital divide could be taken care of by a very high improvement, a very good investment in infrastructural facilities. If we remember, most of the satellite facilities are being owned by the global north, and a continuous reliance on this could mean we are going the way of the old colonial format. This is what is termed as digital decolonization. So if you continue to go that way, continue reliance on their platform, it means we are going the old way, but through the contribution and the cooperation of fellow African countries, then we could actually develop one. Nigerians Artery project is on, for instance, is ongoing. There was a time we experienced problem. The satellite was about, colliding with another satellite, which is of the US. A quick action was fast taken to really avoid that. So we need heavy investment on digital infrastructure, because this is what will really help us. If we have our own platform, it's like our own land where we cultivate what we want and what we want to grow there. In little or no time, all those recognized other platforms will have nothing to do other than to join with the Africa. Then by so doing also, we'll do away with the epistemic injustice being done to our work and our knowledge. Then training, as emphasized by the previous presenter, is very much important. If you have good training, we'll be able to do away with technological oligopolies, which we always encounter in the place of digital infrastructure. And they will be able to avoid the extent and the excesses of the big tech owners who seems to dictate the event that comes of the data we give to them freely, which they maximize in using for other economic gains through, subletting and the researches and the useful information and data about we Africans. With all this, we are good to go. Open access is a sure way to correct all this anomaly, especially the community-based option, which is very good for we African to project. I want to say I really enjoyed the opportunity given by the organizers of this program, and will continue to key into their ideology wherever there is time to do so. Let me say thank you very much for your listenership while we continue with the other part of the program. Thank you.